You're not my husband anymore, just a servant." Her voice cut through the air like ice. Naomi, my wife of 25 years, stood across the dining room table, dark brown skin glowing under the harsh overhead light. Her eyes, once soft and loving, were sharp with contempt. Her hair, long and straight, chestnut brown, framed her angry face perfectly, bouncing slightly as she moved. She flung her wedding ring at me, the gold glinting mid-air before it clinked against the wooden table. I didn't flinch. I didn't shout. I didn't even try to catch it. I simply watched it roll across the surface and stop near the edge. "Why are you smiling?" She spat, hands on her hips, her silk blouse wrinkled from the anger she had been holding in. "Do you think this is funny?" I shook my head gently, lips curling into a calm smile. No one had ever seen me like this, quiet, unshaken, patient, because in that moment I had already decided the game had changed. Naomi, 43, elegant and proud, had always been beautiful. Her skin a deep, rich chocolate, high cheekbones, perfect symmetry. But beauty alone doesn't make a person wise, and she had forgotten that I had learned patience in ways she never would. "David," she said, voice rising. My name on her tongue sounded like an accusation. "I am done being treated like some servant in my own home. I need someone younger, someone who can keep up with me, who can satisfy me." Her words hit the air like daggers, and I simply nodded. I didn't need to argue. I had spent 25 years building a life, quietly handling finances, investments, properties, things she considered invisible. She saw only the man in front of her, not the empire he had built behind the walls of this house. I reached slowly for the stack of papers on the sideboard, legal forms I had prepared months ago but never signed. Naomi's eyebrows shot up. "What are you doing?" "Just filling a form," I said softly, the calm in my voice unnerving her. Her lips pressed tight. Her nails dug into her palms. She leaned forward, trying to see what I was doing, but I moved deliberately, carefully, and completed the form in silence. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I didn't need to. Naomi's expression twisted from anger to confusion, then creeping dread. Her free hand, the one that hadn't flung my ring, trembled slightly. What is that?" "Just something I prepared a while back," I said. She stared at me, her chest rising and falling fast. The room felt smaller, the tension heavier. Her silk blouse clung to her in the early evening light, her high heels clicking nervously against the hardwood floor. She had never seen me this calm, this unshakable. 20 minutes passed. 20 minutes in which I could have yelled. I could have stormed out. I could have demanded respect. But I did none of that. Instead, I signed one simple form, the form that would change everything she thought she controlled. And then I watched. Naomi didn't notice at first. She was pacing, muttering, furious that I had dared to smile, that I had dared to stay calm in the face of her tantrum. Her world, the one she had built on control, intimidation, and superficial power, rested on assumptions about me, assumptions I had quietly dismantled over 25 years. I sipped my coffee slowly, the aroma filling the room, and smiled faintly. She didn't see it coming. In a few minutes she would learn that the man she called a servant controlled more than she could imagine. More than her youth, more than her arrogance, more than the ring she thought defined our marriage. And when the truth hit her, I knew the look on her face would be unforgettable. Naomi's eyes darted around the room, trying to read the papers I had signed, but the calm in my demeanor threw her off. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and the elegant silhouette she cut in her silk blouse and heels seemed smaller somehow, diminished by the realization that I was no longer reacting the way she expected. You can't just sit there smiling," she hissed, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and fear. I tilted my head slightly, fingers resting lightly on the edge of the table. "Why not? I've already taken care of what needed to be done." Her high cheekbones flushed red, her dark eyes narrowing in disbelief. Naomi had always relied on intimidation, on the idea that power comes from yelling, from posture, from anger. But power built quietly, patiently, and deliberately was far stronger. I could see her mind racing. She didn't know where to start, what to do, how to fight this calm, measured confidence. She had expected me to plead, to beg, to shout. She didn't expect patience. You signed it?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper now. "Yes," I said. "I signed it 20 minutes ago." She stumbled back, clutching the back of a chair as if to steady herself. Her long chestnut hair swayed around her shoulders as she spun, trying to find the upper hand, but there was none. I had played my move in silence, and now it was her turn to react. Her fingers grazed the wedding ring she had thrown at me just minutes ago. The gold gleamed under the soft light of the chandelier, a cold reminder of the life she had tried to control. She picked it up, turning it over in her hand, but it no longer held meaning. Not in the way she thought it did. "You think you can just—" she began, but words failed her. Her world, built on assumptions, on my supposed subservience, was unraveling faster than she could comprehend. I leaned back, letting her panic grow, letting her feel the weight of her own arrogance. She paced the room, heels clicking, silk rustling, muttering under her breath. I could hear the fear creeping into her voice, the panic she couldn't mask. I had spent years quietly managing everything, our investments, the properties, the accounts she believed were hers to control. And in one deliberate move, one simple signature, I had shifted the balance of power. Naomi's lips trembled. You're not the man I thought you were," she said finally, voice cracking. I let her words hang heavy and unresolved. Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or confrontation. It's letting reality patiently and quietly do the work. I poured myself another cup of coffee, savoring the steam rising in the dim evening light. The calm in my actions contrasted sharply with the chaos building in hers. She didn't understand yet. She wouldn't understand until the consequences fully hit. 20 minutes had passed and everything had changed. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Naomi's elegant posture now carried tension, her perfect composure slipping with every second. She had assumed she held the power, that she could command and control. But I had been patient. I had been ready. Her hands shook slightly as she reached for the phone, likely intending to call anyone to fix the situation she believed she still controlled. But the truth, carefully placed in that single signature, had already moved faster than she could react. She finally turned to me, wide-eyed, lips parted in shock. "David, what have you done?" I smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carries years of quiet triumph. "Just what I needed to," I said softly. "Just what the situation demanded." She sank onto the edge of the couch, disbelief etched into every line of her elegant face. Her chestnut hair fell over her shoulders, her silk blouse wrinkled from pacing, her fingers twisting nervously. And in that quiet, tense moment, I knew the storm had passed over me. I had not reacted with anger or bitterness. I had reacted with precision, patience, and calm authority. The next moments would teach her the lesson she had ignored for too long. Power is not in shouting or demanding. Power is in preparation, in patience, in quiet decisiveness. And Naomi, the woman who had thrown my ring at me, laughed at me and belittled me, would soon learn that the man she thought was her servant had quietly controlled her world all along. Naomi sat on the edge of the couch, hands trembling, silk blouse wrinkled from pacing, chestnut hair falling over her shoulders. Her eyes darted to the papers on the table, the same papers I had signed 20 minutes ago. Her world, built on control and arrogance, was crumbling silently around her. You actually did it," she whispered, voice cracking. You've taken everything." I leaned back, calm, fingers resting lightly on the table. "Everything?" I said softly. "No, not everything. Just enough to show you the truth." Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried to speak again. The words faltered. Her confidence, her pride, her sense of superiority, all gone in the space of moments. Naomi had always believed that beauty, youth, and assertiveness were power. She had used them to dominate, to belittle, to control. But she had forgotten the quiet strength of patience, preparation, and wisdom. I rose slowly, the gold wedding ring she had thrown at me now lying harmlessly on the table. I picked it up, turning it over in my fingers. "You thought this defined us, that it gave you control, but control is earned, not demanded." Her hands clutched the edge of the couch, knuckles white. "David, I didn't think." I walked toward the window, the evening sun casting long shadows across the room, highlighting the calm authority in my posture. "You underestimated me," I said. "You assumed I would react with anger, with desperation. You thought I would be powerless, but I have always been prepared." She sank further into the couch, silent, the weight of her arrogance finally pressing down. For the first time in years, Naomi felt small, vulnerable, and powerless. I returned to the table, sat down, and poured myself a cup of coffee, steam curling lazily in the fading sunlight. The smell, warm and grounding, contrasted sharply with the storm in her mind. "You see," I said softly, "life isn't about who shouts the loudest or moves the fastest. It's about patience, quiet planning, and the wisdom to act at the right moment." Her eyes brimmed with tears now. Naomi, the woman who had thrown my ring, mocked me and called me a servant, could no longer find words. Her pride was gone, replaced by the bitter clarity of her own misjudgment. "David, I'm sorry," she whispered finally. I didn't realize." I nodded slowly. Acknowledgement is the first step. Understanding comes next. And only then perhaps forgiveness. The evening settled over the house, golden light filtering through the blinds, casting long shadows across the room. Naomi sat in silence, learning, painfully, completely, the truth she had ignored for too long. 20 minutes, one signature, and the balance of power had shifted entirely. She had lost control, but she had gained clarity. And that clarity, in its own way, was a gift. I sipped my coffee and smiled faintly, not with cruelty, but with the quiet satisfaction of justice delivered without malice. Her world had collapsed, yes, but in its ruins, she finally understood something essential. Respect, patience, and quiet strength cannot be bought, demanded, or mocked. They must be earned, and recognized too late, only when you fail to see it before. Naomi lowered her gaze, chest rising and falling with slow realization. I sat back, calm, letting the silence stretch, and in that quiet golden room, I realized something simple and profound. Power is never in the hand that throws, but in the mind that prepares. She looked up finally, eyes soft, voice barely a whisper. "David, I see it now." I smiled once more, not triumphantly, not arrogantly, just quietly, patiently, knowingly, because the lesson had been delivered, the balance restored, and sometimes that is all the satisfaction a man truly needs.